We got the door in. You may be right, I may be crazy, but I just might be the lunatic you're looking for. I've been quoting Billy Joel a lot lately since getting started on this house.
Well, this is how it works when you start to make progress. The holes get bigger.
Just getting started. Well, we got a break in the winter weather. It's still winter, but feeling more like spring now, and so we've got a chance to get started on the first big job, which is the roof. Of course, I'm finding a fair amount of rotten timbers in there and tearing them out and getting down to solid wood and then replacing whatever needs to be replaced. Putting in new rafter tails to make sure that our soffits are solid, our eaves are solid. I'm one of 4 guys that I'm aware of in the neighborhood right now who bought a second house to restore. And my friend has 2 of them. The one next door right there, and the one straight behind mine right there. And I have a friend a couple blocks away who lives in the neighborhood and bought the house next door, a really big one. And that's going to be a lot of work. And then another gentleman who's a do-it-yourselfer. This is the way it has to be done in this neighborhood because you end up underwater otherwise. On these jobs, probably at least 2/3 of the job is labor and maybe 3/4. And that's why a do-it-yourselfer can afford to restore a house here and no one else can. If you're paying the going rate for a contractor, you're going to end up owing more than the house is worth when you're done. I think there are 7 houses in the neighborhood right now that are under restoration, preservation. And so there's a movement going on here to save these old houses.
So one of my friends has volunteered to tear off the rest of the plaster in the house. There's not a whole lot of it left, but we're going to take it off so we can gain access to the inside of the framing for electrical wiring and insulation.
This house has a Michigan basement or Michigan cellar, which was very common in this area. Most of the homes in this neighborhood have a Michigan cellar. What do you call a Michigan cellar if you're not in Michigan? If you're in Ohio, what's it called?
A Michigan basement was built in 2 stages. And the first stage is the perimeter wall, in this case built of stone, or on the exterior walls, brick at the top above the ground level. And then later on, even after people moved into the house, they came in with shovels and by hand dug out a basement. Then, so you have this step effect. They stayed in a couple of feet from the perimeter wall because they didn't want to undermine the soil that the perimeter wall was resting on. And so you have this ledge right here. And then the soil was coated with a thin coat of cement or other masonry. In my case, the parge, if you call it, or that thin layer of cement holding the soil, has failed in a few places. And that leaves the soil exposed. And so I need to get that fixed to preserve the soil that the original wall is resting on.
One of the reasons that it's urgent to get this soil covered up again that's supporting the perimeter wall is that we have a very active population of groundhogs, woodchucks, in the neighborhood, and their second nature is to dig tunnels. Mind you, their first nature is reproduction, I'm sure, but their second nature is burrowing, and they'll burrow right under the stone foundation and compromise the structural integrity of the foundation. I'm not the first person to try to rescue this house. About 9 or 10 years ago, the local Historical Association was working with federal grant money in a program called Neighborhood Stabilization. And they had already preserved these three houses next door. And in fact, this one right next to mine, they actually picked it up and set it on a brand new foundation. When they started in on this house, they started getting estimates, and it looked like they were going to be over budget. And so they backed off, and the house was abandoned again without putting a new roof on it, which is a shame. Not long after that, the land bank decided they were going to demolish the house, and they sent a crew to get started on it. And when one of the neighbors found out, she came out of her house 2 doors down and stood in front of the excavator and said, "You're not going to destroy this house." And the crew called downtown to land bank headquarters, and they were told to stand down. And so she did save the house. So now it's my turn. And the first thing, of course, is getting a good roof on it. And the other first thing, of course, is stabilizing the foundation. And I've gotten a good start on both.
For the first time in about 30 years, April showers are not coming inside this room. I feel good about that.